Yeah, we dig through the ditches and we burn through the witches, and I slam in the back of my Dracula. Dig through the ditches and we burn through the witches, and I slam in the back of my Dracula.
Welcome to the first, hopefully not the only, Corey and Greg vs. Society. Greg,
Hello.
how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
So this podcast is basically going to be us versus society. So that means we're going to find little tidbits and little weird things to expound upon. That could be movies, books, pop culture, or weird things like tofu and crock pots and dirt bikes.
The things we love.
Things we do love. As our first podcast, we're going to hit, well, I'd say a cornerstone of society, right?
You could say that.
Yeah.
It's a cornerstone of something.
Of course, I'm talking about Rob Zombie's magnum opus, House of a Thousand Corpses. We watched it last night. We have a weekly movie night that we do. Most of the time, they're shitty movies. This one, I don't know. Would you call it shitty?
I don't think you can really call it shitty, because at the end of the day, like, okay, maybe it's not a traditionally good movie.
Agreed.
You know, like, you're not going to sit down and watch this with your family and it's going to be a crowd pleaser. But at the end of the day, I think Rob Zombie, like, made the movie that he had in his mind. It was the movie he wanted to make, and I think it was successful in that way. And so, not shitty, successful at being Rob Zombie, which, you know, not everyone can do that.
I agree. So let's do a little backstory, just so everyone knows if you haven't seen it. So House of a Thousand Corpses is Rob Zombie's first movie. It came out in 2003, but he shot it in 2000. He shot it with Universal Studios. He filmed it. They gave him the money for it. Screened it. He said thought it went great. They said it was unreleasable, so it got shelved for 3 years. They sold it to Lionsgate, and then they released it. But it did hit the theaters. What else do I have on here? He came up with the pitch while he was making a haunted house attraction at Universal, and they brought him in because they thought they were getting too soft. They wanted to make a horror movie. Like, they'd released the Flintstones movie at the time, and so they brought Rob in. They're like, can you make a horror movie on something?
And he said, boy, can I.
He had the idea for House of a Thousand Corpses of just the title, and then he flew by the seat of his pants and made up the pitch on the spot. They said they liked it. He said that night he made he wrote 12 pages of just like a basic outline to have, and he said in 2 months they were shooting it, which is insane.
They went from the pitch to shooting it in 2 months?
In 2 months off of...
That is fucking wild.
His elevator pitch was made up. He made a 12-page...
Yeah, he's just like, oh, hey.
And in 2 months they were making it.
What if there was this house and, you know, it's just a fuckload of dead people in it? What would you call that, Rob?
Well, House of a Thousand Corpses, of course.
Sold.
All right, so if you were... What would you say this movie is? Like, if someone hasn't seen it, like if you were going to describe the basic overview, then we'll get into details.
Genre-wise or plot-wise or...
Genre-wise.
I mean, genre, it feels... It's just like one of those murder fest type of movies where you're going to get a lot of gore. The plot's kind of incidental to the special effects. You're really there for the ride. It's not so much to learn anything about anything. You're just sitting down. You're probably with some people, and you're just hanging out for like 2 hours on this insane trip through some weird 70s made-up hillbilly country.
Yeah, because he has so many references. It's super 70s, which is insane. It's not insane because he wears all of his references on his sleeve. The
He really
opening
does,
thing,
yeah.
I think it says it starts in 1973. There's no filters or anything on it. It looks like a modern
It's
movie.
very straight ahead. Yeah.
Like the whole thing's really straight ahead. So it's
It's like I have a camera and I'm shooting it, and this is a movie now.
But then it has these sequences where, what would you call it? Like when it changes color and it's super 70s.
I meant to ask you if you knew what that was called.
It's got to be called something. I'm trying to think of a movie that they do that. Like if you were to see it, like it makes sense that it's dated. That really stylized, like it's not psychedelic, but almost.
It's like an acid horror.
Yeah, so it reminds me of like those Grateful. Have you seen the concert footage of like the Grateful Dead playing in the '60s, where they like?
No, I actually have not.
They have like behind them
live Grateful Dead experience.
They like projected like where they put liquid on a projector and it would change colors.
Oh yeah, they did that at
like
that cover band that we saw at Far Out. Yeah. Okay, so I know what you're talking about.
That kind of far out psychedelic stuff.
Yeah.
But then mixed with like 50s and classic 60s horror. Like they kept showing the TV with like the monsters on it.
Right.
And what did she say when she was? So basically, his wife's in it. Baby, that's her character's name.
Oh God, yeah.
She's the worst.
Give me a B.
But like the dude, she's like, name my favorite actress, and he's like, Marilyn Monroe.
Did she say Betty Davis?
Yeah, Betty Davis.
Yeah. Which suits her.
I mean, does it?
Actually, that's a good point. There's a lot of things in it that you're like, yeah, that makes sense. But then if you take a second, you're like, but does it? There's just a lot of stuff, I guess, kind of along the lines you were saying. He's just kind of throwing all of his experience into this thing, into like a blender. And we get the mashed up, just kind of disgusting, horrifying, like why results.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay, let's track it through, because then the end's insane.
It does,
like
it
almost
escalates.
For no reason.
Well, yeah, because it starts off, you get this opening scene with fucking Michael J. Pollard, who's like was in Bonnie and Clyde way back in the day.
Really?
And has like an iconic role in that. And he's just some random dude talking about like shoving action figures up your ass.
And there was a Planet of the Apes reference.
And,
thing. There's so many references shoved up the ass of this film.
And so he's just there in that gas station. The gas station gets held up. It's Captain Spaulding's gas station. Captain Spaulding apparently never takes his clown makeup off or his clown shoes. He's just always ready to captain, I guess.
Yeah, he's the captain of Spaulding. I don't know.
Can't turn it off. Can't turn it off. And these two assholes come in, try to hold him up. And it's a pretty like straight ahead robbery gone wrong. The robbers get shot, and then we just transition into, I guess, the main movie.
Yeah, because
that doesn't even. It's not even like you could say that's a prologue, really, because it doesn't really set anything up that comes later, aside from the fact that Captain Spaulding exists.
Yeah, because he doesn't do anything except for the very end, which we'll get to. But he's not set up. I don't know. Captain Spaulding exists. It sets up, I guess, the stylized version, because like they're sitting in the gas station. There's lights everywhere. All the like fluorescent lights are green. They just make stupid jokes, which that kind of sets up. It sets it up to be kind of like a goofy, campy thing.
I guess it gives you a little bit of the tone, at least on the comedy side.
And I think we're really
it really doesn't set up the violence that's gonna come later, or even the direction it's gonna turn. It's just fucking something that happens.
So that happens, which of course in storytelling they tell you, don't say this happens, but this happens, therefore. You say this happens, and this happens, and this happens. It's great storytelling. So that happens, and then we immediately transfer to a car full of teenagers. One happens to be Rainn Wilson.
Well, I think they're like college students, right? Like 20-something.
Yeah. and he loves roadside. Well, they kind of.
I think they're just trying to make money, dude, or they just needed some excuse to show up at Captain Spaulding's, really.
Right. So they have the thing happens, and then this happens, and then they go to Captain Spaulding's place. The other dude was Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick, yeah.
So it was Chris Hardwick, Rainn Wilson, and then two girls who are just girlfriend 1 and girlfriend 2.
I don't know any of their names. Not even. I think one of them's named Jerry. One of the either Rainn Wilson or Chris Hardwick, but I could tell you nothing else about them.
Nothing. They go into Spaulding's. He takes them on a arguably kind of cool looking like carnival ride of serial killers, like a haunted house.
Oh yeah, that would be cool to see if it was a real thing.
And is this the point? Are they starting to intercut the cheerleaders at this point, or is it after the spooky ride? I think because
It might have been around then.
Because he's intercutting weird shit during all of this, starting after the robbery, where it's like colorful people screaming at you.
Yeah. Some guy screaming like, "Hell is here! It's happening! We're in it! I have a shotgun and lots of signs in case you missed it."
And really hard cuts and stuff. But the whole point of the carnival ride is it shows real serial killers like Albert Fish and Ed Gein.
Fucking horrifying, Albert Fish. Jesus.
I know. And he intercuts like he got actors to play the serial killers in flashbacks while they're in it too. Those black and white things.
Oh, that's right. He did that. The weird black and white. Everything. He's just like, I got all these toys. I got to play with every single one because they're gonna take them away from me.
Exactly. As we go through this, it's gonna sound nonsensical.
It's only because it is.
Yeah, it's because it's absolutely nonsensical. But the whole point of that, which that did have a point, was to set up Dr. Satan.
We gotta get to Dr. Satan,
which is the mythical creature thing
that lives in their backyard.
So they set up this legend of Dr. Satan on this ride. And they apparently he got hung from a tree that's near Captain Spaulding's, and then they went back to get his body, and he had disappeared. And that it.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah. It's Dr. Satan in a tree. They leave. It starts raining out of nowhere.
Chris Hardwick's really fucking stoked about Dr. Satan when he comes out of there. Which, honestly, I think his reaction to that ride kind of sums up how the audience should view the entirety of the movie. You just, like, you come out of it and you're like, Dr. Satan, hell yeah. House of a Thousand Corpses, like,
right.
Hell yeah. It's just that Chris Hardwick reaction where it's over the top. He's, like, making fun of it in a way, but also did genuinely enjoy it. And I think that's just kind of how you have to take the whole movie. Like, it's for fun.
It seems self-aware.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing with this, is it's completely nonsensical and weird, but it is self-aware, it seems like.
Yeah. Rob Zombie didn't make this as some art house piece to be like, I'm gonna change minds, the world.
He ended up doing that. So anyway, they leave. Oh, it's fucking pouring rain now out of nowhere. And a guy in a bear hat shoots their...
Bear hoodie, yeah.
Shoots their tire out.
With a shotgun. He's a crack shot, this guy.
And so now... So now the car's obviously stuck in the rain.
And of course, Chris Hardwick forgot to put the spare in the trunk.
This goofy motherfucker. And alright, so something... Then Sherry Moon Zombie comes.
Oh, she shows up beforehand, doesn't she? Because they pick her up on the side of the road.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She's just like, we're gonna disregard the fact that this woman who's dressed in like a fucking fur coat and a cowboy hat, rhinestone cowgirl, is just out in the rain in the middle of nowhere. Like, well, I mean, no, you can't leave her. Rainn Wilson's gonna be a good guy. He's gonna pick her up, get her in the car, and so he does. And goddamn, is she not just one of the most annoying characters?
She's the complete worst. She giggles at everything.
It's hilarious. It's so it grates on you.
Because it's purposely done over the top, but it's so frequent and too over the top. Like, there's a self-awareness to it, but it's beyond that, I think. Or do you think that's just how she acts?
I think it's a combination, maybe, of just kind of the general inexperience and Rob being like, I like this. I don't know how to tell you how to do it differently, so I'm just going to let you do that.
Yeah.
And like also, if you're
you
the
can tell her
person,
no.
yeah, and you're the person doing it, you're not necessarily going to be aware of exactly what it sounds like. You're like, oh, I'm doing a weird fucking giggle. And then you watch it later, and you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to rip out my vocal cords. Never do this again.
So, yeah, there's a great part, like, later in the movie where her and another girl that's coming up just stare at each other and just start giggling, but the camera goes a little too long. And so they, like, stop and then start again. Anyway. So she gets picked up. They go. Bear hat hoodie guy shoots him out.
Blows that tire out.
She says her brother.
Oh, her brother's got a tow truck. Yeah.
So
easy peasy.
She pulls Rainn Wilson out, and they go to find it.
Well, no, actually. So there are very, very tiny, minuscule moments of character development in this.
Please go on.
And I think this is one of those moments where you briefly, just for a second, get Chris Hardwick. He's going to sacrifice himself to the rain. He's going to be like, I forgot the tire. I'll go.
That's right.
And then Rainn Wilson says, no, I insist. I'll go. So you're like, okay, there's a little something, maybe just a hint of chivalry that these guys are trying. Rob's trying to give them something. Meanwhile, the girlfriends are just in the back, still zero input,
Yeah, just
zero
bitching and
anything.
complaining.
They literally, when they introduced Rainn Wilson and Chris Hardwick's characters, I thought they were the only two I thought it was just going to be about them.
Right.
Because the girlfriends are asleep in the back and you can't even see them in the shots.
Right.
Rob Zombie takes no time to establish that there is anyone else in the car. We only find this out after Chris Hardwick goes inside and comes out. And he goes into Captain Spaulding's like, I got to show the girls. You're like, the girls? What?
Wait, what?
Is they in the trunk? What?
Then he does a jump scare where he's like, boom, wake up! Or it's like, what?
Okay, so there's one girl, and then you find out the fourth person in this crew, the second woman, is just literally covered with like a blanket. She's just as out of sight. She's the most non-existent thing that can possibly be.
And she's the one that ends up just being the main character.
Was it her? Was it?
I don't actually know.
I think it was Chris Hardwick's girlfriend.
Because they look the same, too.
Well, that's the thing. They're all so generic and flat because it's just not about them being people. It's about the Firefly family and just like them being characters.
Right. They're just meat to be fucked with.
They're, the paint, Otis, is that his name?
Oh, the main like long-haired dude.
Yeah. They're just what he uses for his art, the supplies.
So they leave. They end up at the Firefly family house, which is a creepy house that is shot at a low angle constantly. That they go back to.
Gotta make it intimidating.
That has like shitty Halloween decorations outside.
Well,
which I
it
thought
is
was
Halloween.
Cool. Oh yeah, it's Halloween. I forgot.
Which
they established
in case
it's Halloween.
You forgot, October 31st is Halloween.
So the whole thing's on during Halloween.
Which maybe explains why Rainn Wilson had zero reaction to the thousands of baby doll heads nailed to the porch.
Yeah, just typical Halloween decorations.
These people just really love the holiday. You gotta admire that.
So they go in. Sherry Moon Zombie flirts and takes Rainn Wilson's glasses.
Well, first she gets him out of those wet clothes.
That's right.
And has him change into that fucking Farmer John.
Oh yeah,
outfit.
He's just wearing overalls and like a stereotypical red plaid flannel that fits him perfect, and he looks like fucking.
He just seems like a dork.
Wilson. She flirts with him, takes his glasses. He denies her advances. Then is that when the mom comes? And they start introducing the Firefly family one by one. And during this part, at this point, they're definitely interjecting that there are 5 missing cheerleaders.
Yeah. we now
right?
have just found out that there are cheerleaders missing. They're apparently upstairs in a different room. I don't know.
Oh, because it keeps cutting to that. So they're cutting to news footage of the cheerleaders missing, and then
right.
pictures of them in the newspaper and stuff. And then by this point, it's obvious that the Firefly family has them, and it cuts to Otis, who hasn't met the characters yet,
Going on some
yelling
monologue.
at them. About how they're. The point he was trying to make, because they did this with Spalding too, is they're like, "You're trying to fuck because we're a bunch of rednecks," and
was that what his thing was? I honestly...
They did that like twice, but then it didn't pay off.
Okay.
That was some kind of point he was making. Because Otis is screaming that at the cheerleaders, and Spalding tells that to Rainn Wilson.
He
as a
does,
joke.
yeah.
But then that's done.
No
it.
callbacks.
No,
Rob Zombie
0.
hates a callback.
You'd be expecting that in your movie, to have things that make sense on a timeline.
And to have expectations is to become comfortable, and Rob Zombie does not want you to get comfortable.
At all. So the mom comes, they come. How did the bear hat guy... I forgot how the car got back to the house.
He tows it back.
Okay, he tows it back. So now everyone's in the Firefly
Which is
house.
the weird... They went through a lot, the Firefly family, just to get these people there. Like, all right, blow out the tire. We're actually going to tow it back. Then they actually fix the car at one point.
So anyway, yeah. So during this time they have... Yeah, okay. So they're going to fix the car. While that's being fixed, they tell them to eat dinner. Then Tiny, this mutant, tall, crazy-looking dude with a mask comes out.
Yeah.
Which is actually credit when they're all sitting there and he comes out with that. I think that was a cool shot. I thought that looked creepy and weird and cool. But he has like a sweater on with like skull and crossbones on it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That looks like homemade. And then the grandpa comes out who has no purpose in this movie.
Oh yeah, get grandpa written on a note.
Yeah.
That was how they go get grandpa. They can't talk about grandpa for a second, I guess.
And then before that, the mom was flirting with Chris Hardwick.
Real hard.
And Chris Hardwick
was super into it.
Yeah, he was fine. He was into it. Rainn Wilson was not into Cherry Moon Zombie. That sets the table. There's masks they have to wear. The grandpa
Can't eat without the masks.
Eats fucking weird. And then they call Otis down, who has a jar with a baby fetus in it.
Oh yeah, he does.
And then,
which again, never referenced. Although, doesn't the mom say something like, "Oh, you brought Jeffrey down," or
probably? And then they eat. The girls freak out because... Oh no, there's the show.
Isn't that after dinner?
Yeah, I forgot what happens during dinner that sets up more plot points. I mean, obviously nothing, but...
Just you got to put the masks on.
It just sets up that they're weird.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
So they're weird.
Just colorful folks out in the country.
There's torture flashbacks of the cheerleaders upstairs because Cherry Moon Zombie's putting on makeup for a show, and they end up at this big stage show.
Yeah, they have this very elaborate stage built in their house somewhere
that has mannequins as the audience,
which again, none of our four main characters seem to have an issue with.
No. And we have to say the house and the stage set look great because it's obviously...
Yeah.
It's Rob Zombie's personal collection of like horror memorabilia.
Oh yeah, he really wanted to show that off.
And so it looks really cool actually. And the stage has like old 50s things, and she sings... It's not a Marilyn Monroe song.
I forgot what
it's
it
some
was.
50s high voice.
Yeah, she does the boot doop thing at the end. And yeah, Chris Hardwick's girlfriend
freaks out.
Is it Chris Hardwick's girlfriend or is it Rainn Wilson's girlfriend?
I don't remember. One of them freaks out because
she gets really pissed. She's like, "Get your hands off my man." And
they storm out. I don't know which girl it was. The car's done by this point, which no one told them. They just leave, and
they're like, "I think you should leave." And like, okay, sounds good.
So they go to leave. Car's magically done. the gates close. Well, there's been a panic.
Oh yeah,
leaving.
that was fantastic. They're freaked out now. It's weird. They're trying to get the fuck out of there, and then they stop all of a sudden. And instead of showing us that they're stuck at a gate, they just have Rainn Wilson say, "I have to open the gate."
Yeah, they never actually show a gate. It's like, because all the shots are really tight. And so it's like, I have to get out and open the gate.
Like, oh, okay.
And then Otis and Tiny, the giant monster, are pretending to be scarecrows.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that.
And they get off. Yeah, that was cool. And they start trashing the car and taking...
Beat the shit out of Rainn Wilson.
Yep.
Do they beat the shit out of everybody, basically? And then just take them back?
Yeah. And then it... Yeah.
That had such a... There were parts of it when I was watching it that made me... It kind of reminded me of how it felt to watch certain horror stuff when I was a kid in the 90s. Like, there was just something about that... And I know it's not like a real thing. It's just something that exists in my mind.
Yeah.
But it kind of went back to that vibe that I could feel the same way I did when I was like 8 years old and watching The Exorcist on TV, and it's fall and there's leaves and like everything's kind of dying and it's chilly, and it's just a very specific feeling that I was surprised
That he pulled
came
off.
out during House of a Thousand Corpses. But yeah, like that scarecrow thing specifically made me feel that. It just gave me like kind of like R.L. Stine Goosebumps vibes.
Yeah.
A little bit. It was just fun.
There's a couple things like that where he uses like stereotypical Halloween, not the movie, just Halloween culture in general, like scarecrows and pumpkins and stuff, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
So then they do that. One of the girlfriends wakes up tied to a chair with a dunce hat on.
Oh yeah, the dunce hat. That was another great touch. Like, just I love things like that where I would just never in a million years think, okay, now we've got this woman beaten and tied up, and we're just gonna throw a dunce cap on her.
Right, and she's in like this nightmarish, looks like a little girl's room. Like there's drawings and crayon on it.
Yeah.
All the sets and stuff look awesome in this. I think he has a really good eye for creepy visuals, and like you said, you never expect in 100 years that you're like kind of creeped out on like, oh, she's like in timeout and a dunce hat.
Yeah, it's weird, and the dunce cap is just like, it's very fresh.
Yeah,
it's very bright and like, all right, this doesn't get used a lot. We're breaking it out for you.
They break it out for her. Otis comes in because she's screaming, obviously. He says, shut the fuck up, I'll kill you, etc., etc. He says, I'll kill you, but I'll take your... She's gagged, obviously.
Yeah.
Takes the gag out. She's begging for her life and asking where Rainn Wilson is. Hard cut.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Otis is saying he's been such a huge help to me and stuff. And before the reveal, it's cutting back to him like he's like on a big X. He's not on a cross, but he's like,
oh yeah, like a rack,
like a big rack thing. And they start torturing him, and the song "Brick House" comes on as Sherry Moon Zombie puts it on the radio and dances in one spot.
Oh god, yeah. It's so... That is unsettling because it feels... That feels very home movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's just your dad standing behind Rainn Wilson as he's getting tortured with the camera, and like your daughter's off, or I guess your wife is just there dancing to Brick House, and you know your best friend is just fucking around with Rainn Wilson's body, and the amateurness of it kind of works better than if he had tried to do something, like if he had tried to, like, I don't know, get more experimental for him, I guess.
Right, like you
just try new things. You just like, it's very straight ahead and just like,
because if it would have gone full, I see what you're saying. Because it does. It's like shaky cam.
Yeah, he could have done like that Tarantino Reservoir Dogs type thing.
Yeah.
Where, like, the camera is very present and involving, and it's stylized. So
and it's reacting to the song. Like nothing in that scene is reacting to Brick House
or
anything.
It's just really. It's like you have these 3 separate things all happening right next to each other, but that are completely unaware of the existence of the others.
Right. Which is probably a mistake that worked out.
I would guess
that it was like, oh, this kind of works. It might have been intentional. I'll give him a little credit.
It might have been. I really don't. I'm just thinking, like, based on the fact that this was his first thing and that he really didn't have a lot of experience, and just even that whole story about how he got it funded, I think probably for a first time, you do a lot of stuff where you're just like, all right, let's get this in the can.
Right. So that happens, and after talking about the artistic marriage of it, then we get the big reveal of this movie's gonna go off the fucking rails. When it's revealed that he has mutilated Rainn Wilson and turned him into Fish Boy.
Fish Boy.
Can you describe Fish Boy for the audience?
Have you seen The Little Mermaid?
Imagine that, but it's Rainn Wilson and he's dead. And there's was there like a cornucopia around him? It looked like, because it was Halloween-y too.
It was. It looked like he was on display to potentially be eaten. I don't think they would. I don't think they're cannibals, are they?
I don't think so. I thought he was just a display piece.
It was just like the way it looked. It was kind of like, I don't know, those old oh good God,
like the Thanksgiving spreads.
No, it was this. Yeah, it is like this. It is like those, but Christ, I'm blanking. Whatever.
Okay, if you think about it, you can interject. So that's revealed. She freaks out, as she should.
Yeah, that's a reasonable response to seeing Rainn Wilson turned into a mermaid.
Fishman, yeah. Mermaid. Then it cuts to the family.
Yeah.
They're using Chris Hardwick as a knife throwing target. And then he's got the shit kicked out of him, so he's not altogether there. Right? Am I in the right order?
Yeah, he's pretty out of it. He's not racked.
And they're just throwing knives at him casually as they watch TV.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the other girl. I don't know, what's your girlfriend?
God, this is bad.
And this part was creepy, though. But then he undercut. But this was a setup that I was like, okay, this is unsettling. It cuts to her, and she's in like a schoolgirl outfit in this bedroom it's like the other one. It looks like a child's room with crayon drawings. She's roped to a bed in this just dirty schoolgirl uniform. And then Tiny walks down the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
And it's set up that, it's the sacrifice that he's going to rape her.
Something. It's not going to be good.
But it's shot, because, like we said, just imagine in between all these things happening, there's weird cuts to psychedelic things and nonsense.
Yeah.
But he plays this one without cutbacks, and it's like her slow reveal, pan out, go to the stairs. Tiny walks down real slow, and you're like, oh, this is weird. Tiny gets to the bedside and starts eating cereal comically.
Yeah. Well, first he tries to give her cereal. He's like, oh, you hungry?
Yeah.
It's been a weird night for you.
She denies it. She's hysterical and waiting for her fate. Asks to be let go, and he does. Tiny's a good guy, it turns out.
Yeah, which is another, I don't know, nice thing to see in movies a lot of the time, I guess, where you're just like, okay, let's not jump to because the only reason you really assume anything weird about Tiny is because he does not look like your average human. He's enormous. He's like, his stature is very not, you're not going to see that every day.
Right.
And so
he's hunched back, kind of. You just assume he's bad because he looks
Yeah, it's that whole
different.
Todd Browning's Freaks thing. Well, not exactly like that, but in general, you know, just like you make assumptions based on that, which kind of can almost ruin experiences. Because then again, you like if you go into these things with expectation, a lot of them do just follow these formulas.
Right.
It's gonna ultimately be disappointing. So if you have Tiny just turn out to be some monstrous dude, it's
on the nose.
It's gonna be
well,
because
this whole thing you got to put it next to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Leatherface is the whole family's a freak. Leatherface is the freakiest. He's a giant monster who is literally just a giant monster.
Yeah.
You think Tiny's gonna be
maybe
let loose as that?
I know, but that actor is actually like that's just like an actual dude that's that big and like has something. I don't know.
Right, but him wearing like another person's face and like
does he do that at some point, or is it just
it's the whole movie, right? Because he has different. I need to rewatch it. He changes faces when he kills the girl, but he starts out. He always has someone else's face on, but he starts with someone he's killed before.
Tiny does?
No, Leatherface.
Oh, I
was gonna say.
Oh,
Tiny doesn't. He just has his mask
like,
thing on to hide his monstrous face.
Yes, like we should watch Texas Chainsaw again.
It's a fucking perfect movie. That'll be in the next podcast because we can talk about real serious stuff. Anyway, Tiny takes her down. She's free. She backs up the stairs and he waves goodbye at her.
Yeah. And the cereal thing is great. It's just funny.
It's just such a
no one just eats food in this movie.
Yeah, literally, because the grandpa doesn't either. Everyone just shoves food at their face and misses. Okay, so she's cut loose. Cut to. Now I'm gonna get lost. I was doing pretty good of following this plot.
Well, this is where it really,
because it's changing into the batshit thing it's gonna be
so
at the end.
In the background this whole time. Don't forget. Oh, the one element that one of the girlfriends has as a character trait is that she's responsible, and we know she's responsible because she's always trying to call her dad.
We need to set that up. I forgot about that. So in between, as this is happening, once they're at the Firefly house, one of the girlfriends, whatever, she calls her dad in the very beginning.
She calls him from Captain Spaulding's, I think,
to say they're gonna go to someplace, wherever they're gonna go that night.
She's like, we're gonna be late because I guess they were supposed to get to his house.
Yeah, they're going to his house for Halloween or whatever. They don't show up. So it cuts back to him on his house that's on the Universal backlot because it's a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And they keep showing the same shot, and it's trick-or-treaters. And it's like 2 nights in a row. It must be Halloween all the time. And
what a place.
So at this point, they didn't show up, and he calls his cop buddy.
I didn't even get if that guy he called because it wasn't one of the sheriffs that goes later. No. It was just some dude.
And he wasn't evil because he actually sent cops.
Yeah, he was just a guy.
It was just plot bridge.
Yeah, I will relay this message. Also, it rained. They probably got stuck in the mud. Don't worry, Dad. Stay put just a little bit longer.
Right. So as he's staying put, horror is happening. Horror and or violence. Fuck. Okay. Rainn Wilson's a fish person.
Fish boy. We got. Oh my god.
Chris Hardwick leaves the movie because no.
Oh wait.
No.
Sherry Moon Zombie starts giving him a haircut and then a scalping.
Haircut and a scalping while referencing old movies. Other stuff happens and they end up. Well, no. Then the cops come. Because the cops come before they're the bunny rabbits.
Christ.
Because he has to kill the dad.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Because, all right, so the cops come. They
Walton
find the
Goggins,
car.
Baby. We got
Walton
some Goggins.
One of them's Walton Goggins. The other one's just like generic cop 2, who is actually pretty cool. They find the car abandoned, because they're looking for them being stuck in the mud or something. They find an abandoned car that's beat up. They find one of the cheerleaders in the back.
With treat carved into her?
Trick or treat? Didn't that say that? Or did it just say treat?
I kept looking at it, and I'm pretty sure my brain at least only processed treat. But I kept thinking, like, there should be trick here, right? And I was like, it's treat, but I don't know, maybe I don't know.
We'll assume it's a trick or treat, because just treat would be really stupid. So now they're how do they get to the Firefly house? Because now they're like, something's wrong, obviously.
The cops?
Yeah.
Oh, I think they just jump to that conclusion, maybe. Or maybe they go to Captain's. Oh, no. So the daughter had told the dad that they were at Captain Spaulding's. And I think that message got to the cops. So they go check. Do they check him out? Do they bother?
No, Spaulding's not in it till the end.
No? Jesus.
I think they just go
then
to the
why
house.
did they...
It must have been near the house, and they're like, because they're like, can we talk to you? We have some questions. They're not suspects yet. They're just wondering if they'd seen them, maybe.
Well, how could the Fireflies not be suspects in everything?
So, we'll just say they're whatever. Because they don't suspect him. One of the cops goes in to talk to the weird mom. The other two go around back. A weird dog barks at them. In a weird montage thing, they open a shed in the back, which what pop song plays? It's like a classic rock song.
Yeah.
It's the same thing where I have the juxtaposition of like Brick House with the murder.
Yeah.
It was not the Ramones song. That was earlier.
That was earlier. Cool. That was fun to hear.
It was okay.
Just want to sniff some glue.
It's like a Foreigner song, like Jukebox Hero. Just something that doesn't make sense.
It is something like that.
And at that point, she shoots the other cop. Otis comes out. The dad's with him. We even set that up.
The dad. Well, you did. You said the two other two go out. Which the cop, Walton Goggins, and the dad.
And the dad.
But yeah, the sheriff stays inside with the mom, and I feel like this is where the movie is good in technical ways. Just for a hot second.
Yeah.
Like when the moment that the mom shoots the sheriff. Pretty good, very solid, effective. It's just matter of fact.
I like it was in the neck too.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like a headshot. It was like a kind of miss shot.
Just like kind of scattered and hectic. Like
right.
She is. That works. And then that goes to what doesn't work technically at all. Just right away cutting over to that when they open up the shed and. The way the shed is lit with the daughter inside and just the contents of the shed and the shit inside of it. And then the look on the dad's face, like you cut from this like dark red, it's just blacks and reds in the shed, I think. And
yeah.
Something like that. And then cause that's just like bright daylight on the
dad.
Yeah,
because this is all happening during the day.
And he's just like this horrified face. And it just doesn't match up at all in a kind of amazing way that I enjoyed watching, even though it didn't work.
That's the thing with this is like those things that don't work are still, they're not so shitty that it takes you out. You're more
does something
puzzled.
But
it works in that it doesn't.
I don't know. There's something weird, I don't understand, but with the combination of absolutely everything that goes wrong in like a technical sense in that part of the scene, it kind of comes together to just be interesting.
Right. Okay, so the dad sees it, the cop sees it, they call for backup, that gets shot, and then we get to, I think personally, the best piece of character building I've ever seen in a movie.
Tell me more.
The cop and the dad start running, obviously, as they see all these cheerleaders in the shed. Otis comes out because all this shit's happening. Because I know the cops are there.
Right, yeah.
So he's coming back. He has a gun. The dad's running. And right before Otis shoots him in the back, flashback. Dad at Christmas with his daughter. Cut back, shoot in the back. Just so we know that he had a life outside of this.
It broke my heart. to know.
It was like it was like a 1 second shot of them on a couch, like looking dead into the camera with like a puppy or something.
It was straight up just, this is a man who has experienced a Christmas. And in a weird way, that's such a generic feeling that I'm sure some people did watch that and go, oh.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I had Christmas with my dad.
And now...
And now he's shot in the back and lying face down in a muddy pit. Walton Goggins is absolutely failing at being a law enforcement officer.
Yeah. So the dad's dead. We know he had a Christmas. Well,
just one at least.
Yeah, just one. I'm assuming he was absent throughout the rest of her life.
I would make those. He had tattoos. Did you notice that?
The dad did?
Yeah.
Really?
He had one on his chest. They were like kind of hidden. He had one on his arm. He had one on his arm. And yeah, the one on his chest. And like, I felt like that was going to turn into like, oh, dad's a secret badass vet or something. No, he just got shot in the back. He just has these like semi-mysterious tattoos. Or he's just a normal man with normal man tattoos. With a normal daughter who has normal Christmases and dies in a very abnormal way.
Now I feel bad. But anyway, Otis goes after Walton Goggins, who is a shitty cop who immediately gives up his gun, which leads to an actual good piece of filmmaking.
Good piece of filming. Like, genuinely enjoyed it a lot. All right,
what happens?
So... Otis has Goggins.
That's fucking the Gogs.
Gogs. Got the Gogs on his knees.
His face, because Walton Goggins has those like crazy giant mouth. You're just like...
He does. He's got such a great face. It's so interesting to look at.
He acted his ass off. He deserved whatever, like the $50 he got from where I was.
Whatever, yeah. Just
he got catering and $50 to make this.
God, yeah.
And he got to keep his costume.
He just rolls around as a 70s sheriff sometimes.
Hell yeah, why wouldn't you not? Anyway.
So yeah, Goggins on his knees. Otis is standing above him. He's got his pistol cocked to Goggins' head. And in this moment, like, given everything that we've seen before, is we know he's gonna kill him. Like, that's a given. There's no real tension that way, but it lingers for so long and there's no cuts. We just are looking from above, and then we start going to this God eye view where we start pulling back a little bit and we get higher and higher up, but it's so slow. Just the pullback is so considered, and the two of them just staring at each other, not really moving, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and then it gets to that point where, like, even though you know it's gonna happen, the tension's there anyway, because like now you just want it to happen. You're like, Jesus Christ, just get it over with, just like let me out of this. And Rob Zombie says, nah, bro.
Like, we're gonna like extra just little bit.
It was incredible. I think there were at least two separate times where it was like, okay, this has gone on long enough that he'll do it now. And then it kept going. I was like, okay, definitely now. And then it kept going, and I loved it. And I was just like, this is genuinely good and so out of place next to everything else, where it feels kind of more mainstream artistic, which is interesting because he definitely just did that because he liked it.
Right.
Like, I don't think there was any consideration.
And it's artistic in that, like, he dips the whole soundtrack to silence.
Yeah.
There's no nature noises until he actually gets shot. Like, but as it fades out, he fades out all the background noise, and there's no music, and it literally dips to complete silence. And you just sit there. You
really focus on it.
When we were watching it, I had to like take a sip of water because I felt weird.
Yeah. It just does not let you out of the moment in a cool way.
That's great.
And yeah, it does draw you out into yourself as a viewer because of how the camera moves, I feel like, anyway, like, because you start pulling back and like up off the ground a little bit, like, okay, like we've gone out of the world, and I'm aware of myself as being someone who's watching this, which just made me more aware of how tense I was feeling, really.
Right. you feel it, and you're like, exactly, like you get a physical reaction because you're sitting, especially if you're sitting in a theater or watching it with people, like you're very aware of your like surroundings.
Yeah,
and,
I was like, I remember being really aware of like just swallowing.
Yeah, and like you're breathing and stuff, and it's like,
which is, this is super weird, but that the swallowing thing, being very hyper aware of that, like in silent situations. When I was a kid and my mom would take me to church, I had this same thing where I would just be standing there and like get this uncomfortable urge where like I just gotta like swallow, and I would, and I'd just be so like, that was the loudest fucking thing. I hate to, wow, church, god damn. Just like,
yeah. Or like when your blinking starts turning manual, and you like have to like,
so it was
1, 2, my swallowing's loud.
Yeah, it was weird. It was just, I don't know. Yeah, that church tension, you know.
Rob Zombie pulls off church tension. So he gets a check mark on the "it was good" in that box.
But then the very end of that scene, so Goggins goes down as he must. But the way the shot looked when he finally took it, still, that fucking, it looked off. It looked like wherever they set the squib up on the ground or something.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
It was like he shoots him, and then it kind of looks like something explodes in the dirt, like just not in the right place. And it was just like the sound of the shot too was not very dramatic. It's just a little like, pop.
Yeah, he doesn't put the echo.
Yeah.
And then is that when the eagle goes like in the back, like right after he does it? That's very zombie. That sums up this movie where it's like, okay, this is kind of cool, and then it's just like the squibs over here. There's like the eagle's too loud and the sound mixed. The shot's not good enough. Like a bunch of shitty things. I don't like shitty things on a good idea. Like it's
the eagle was earlier when they find the car, I think.
They did it twice.
Did they?
Yeah, because I noticed the eagle.
I only missed
that one was way too loud of the mix. Okay, so now we're moving. Get shot. Cool scene.
There's like zero hope for these hapless cardboard cutout human beings
who we don't know the names of except for Chris Hardwick and Rainn Wilson, who's now a fish. Cut to, it's Halloween. The Firefly family, it's Halloween night, are dressed in costumes. They're celebrating Halloween with music and... Oh, wait, they go to the liquor store before.
Oh, they sure do. You got to stock up.
So,
and
it's
I think there's only... This is a one liquor store town.
So, it's a tiny little montage thing of them getting ready for the party. They go to this liquor store.
Which I thought was a porno shop. Initially,
all the neon signs and shit were porno signs, like XXX and like like the like things, and then they go in and it's like a weird dude, trashy, selling liquor.
Is he wearing like? Was he wearing like a fishnet top?
Like,
did I imagine that? That's possible.
Possibly. We'll just say yes. And his name is George Ober, but his so his name tag says Goober. Because one of his coworkers sharpied an extra O
don't
on
you
it.
worry. We get a full explanation about why Sherry Moon calls him Goober.
It's like 2 minutes.
His whole backstory. He gets more character development than almost anybody.
Because you feel bad that Sherry's fucking with them. They get the liquor. He says, "Thanks for coming." What is a liquor store called?
It's called... I'm never gonna forget this, but it's also so hard to say. It's Red Hot Pussy Liquor.
Red Hot Pussy Liquor.
Red Hot Pussy Liquor. God,
there's a big neon sign. Neon. Do you know how expensive it is to make a neon sign?
No.
Like thousands of dollars.
I did love... That was another thing I loved. Just sitting there watching it and like Rob paid to have a sign
Right.
that says Red Hot Pussy Liquor.
Because once again, the liquor store looked awesome.
Yeah.
Neon everywhere. There's like pink lights and green. Big neon sign that they paid like $30,000. That's probably in his house above his bed now.
I hope so.
They leave, and our man says, "Thanks for."
Oh, thanks for coming to Red Hot Pussy Liquor.
He pauses that you can tell in the ADR that he probably was about to laugh, which is
Which
awesome.
how could you not, man?
Thanks for coming to Red Hot Pussy Liquor.
It's so stupid and great. Like Rob Zombie hadn't spent money to make a sign for a joke. You got to admire that commitment.
That was the only time. Like, we were kind of like ghastly, like chuckling at things. But that was the only time in the movie that we were both like laughing. Like, we were like, "That's awesome," because it was just out of nowhere. So they go to Red Hot Pussy Liquors. They get a big thing of booze.
Stock up real hard.
They go back. Everyone's dressed in costumes. Tiny is adorably in a 60s Batman costume with a cape, if you notice that.
I didn't.
He's in because his cape's too short. And he's like in the Adam West Batman costume. It's awesome. Otis is upstairs getting ready. They start chanting his name. Otis, Otis. Because he has a special costume he's going to wear. At this point, our three characters that we don't know their names or care about are in bunny outfits tied to the ceiling on like a spinning thing. They aren't on meat hooks. They're just tied.
Which, yeah, also at this point, I had kind of assumed that the girl with a father was the only character left alive.
Right.
I thought Chris Hardwick was dead post-scalping, as people tend to be post-scalping. And the other girl, I think it honestly had just been so long since we'd seen her. I just was like, okay.
She like I don't even know which one it was. But yeah, both the girls just kind of go off and now they're back.
They're all
Things
together.
happen.
Yeah, shit happens.
Otis comes down the stairs and his Halloween costume is the skin of the father of one of the girls.
The father who once celebrated a Christmas.
Right. His Christmas skin.
Yeah.
His mysterious Christmas skin. Otis comes down and torments them. We should watch Mysterious Skin. That's a fucking dark movie.
It is super dark. It's really good.
Though, yeah. I remember watching that like in high school. That was like too early to kind of see it. I like needed a shower after.
Yeah.
When you're like 16 and like.
I think I didn't see it till college, but still same.
It's one of those things, especially because they go into such detail with the little kids, like with the coach.
I mean, really, all of it. I still have that one scene seared into my brain of Joseph Gordon-Levitt fucking the dude with the, was it Sarkozy's?
Oh, where he's the skin thing?
Yeah. She's like, this dude has AIDS, and little Joseph Gordon-Levitt is just like, I'm going in.
Right, because he doesn't know any better, and he's like, and then like the whole alien abduction thing.
Yeah.
And then when it all comes crashing together, you're just like, what the fuck? Anyway, back to Rob Zombie. He comes down and torments the girl and all of them. Actually, horrifying. He doesn't cut to anything comedic during that, I don't think. Because he wants to let that ride a little bit. It's not done well, but it's not... He doesn't like... Someone doesn't eat cereal when it's happening.
No.
Then Dr. Satan comes into the picture.
Almost. We can't forget about...
They're gonna... Do they mention him, or do they just bring him out to the field after that? I think they mentioned... They're like, Dr. Satan, Dr... Like, they don't say... It's implied that they're gonna sacrifice them to Dr. Satan.
Is that why they put them in the pit?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why they put the two in the thing. And the other girl. So they're going to sacrifice him to Dr. Satan. I don't know if it's explicitly applied in the scene. But they perp walk him out. They're all dancing around their costumes. There's these bunnies, like on a chain gang, like walking. Nice visual. Kind of creepy. They go and you realize Tiny has a crank in his Batman costume that's lifting a coffin up that there's two doors. Like, they've done this before. This isn't...
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, it's implied at first that they're going to be buried alive, but then you realize it's like this door that's opening that you're like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
To get in the coffin, one of the girls escapes and runs into the spooky graveyard.
Yep.
So
in the bunny costume.
running through... Oh, and then it cuts to Otis going, run, rabbit, run!
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah, it's like it's a separate thing. It's not just him in the scene yelling that. It's him, like a recording of him.
Yeah, just looking directly in the camera, like in a basement.
Yeah.
It would have worked better if he was in the scene, like running next to her, like
That would have been...
tormenting.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell he...
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. Like, you could tell he could, like, kill her or tackle her or whatever thing.
That
But
would
he
have
was
been
letting...
cool. That would have been cool.
But I am not Rob Zombie. Anyway, so instead of doing that, which would make sense of the movie, we just cut to him in a basement screaming at the camera. Sherry Moon tackles her, or she trips, or she ghostly runs around her in this cemetery that's straight out of, like, the Snoopy movies.
Yeah. Just like little white crosses. It's
And then proceeds to brutally stab her.
Yeah, it was very straightforward, which was kind of surprising given the creativity that has flowed henceforth and will flow after that.
Right, because everything that's happened so far, you can't fault for not being creative. Nothing generic has happened. And this seems so anticlimactic.
Yeah, she just stabs her. And I was like, huh, that's...
Which, as we've learned, was going to be the original ending. But then the things we're about to describe now, which is the climax of the movie, which is pretty awesome, was tacked on after he did this original ending where basically the girl that gets stabbed dies in a seance, which is still going to happen, but we'll get there. Anyway, she gets stabbed, whatever. We cut back. They're getting in the coffin. They start lowering it down. You realize they're not getting buried alive because they hang it over like this water. And like it's like a well or something. And
this was a genuine what the fuck moment for me.
Yeah, this is new ending. It hits the rails, and I like this sequence a lot, actually. What did you think? Like, for you seeing it for the first time and it started happening.
Again, it feels like this is the film's version of Captain Spaulding's ride at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, that's just essentially what it is. It's just Rob Zombie taking you on this relentless fucking ride through to the climax. And it does... I feel like the tone shifts a little bit just from like the type of weird violence that you see up until that point. And because that... So how does that start? Okay, there's the pit people.
Okay, so they lower him down. They lower down a tape that just goes like, oh, it's like slowed down Satan speak. That continues to play over. When what do we get? Pit zombies.
Pit zombies. It shocked me so much that I didn't even like register it at first, and then I don't know what I said something to you.
Yeah,
it was like an "Are you seeing this shit?" moment,
right?
And because we hadn't really gotten much of a sense that there were really other people on the property.
Well, we haven't
that
gotten
they
any
were, like,
supernatural things happening, period, in the movie.
Anything like that. Like, even if you just took it as like, oh, these are actual humans that they just keep in this pit, there's been zero mention of anything like this or any hints about this.
Right.
Like, okay, they kill people sometimes, but like the ceremonial aspect, and just, yeah, they're like these little, oh man, what were those things in the Power Rangers show? I don't know. Just like this faceless gray.
And they would just run and just get kicked and stuff.
Yeah. So they just explode out of the water and start, I think, tearing Chris Hardwick to shreds.
No, they kidnap him because
the pit people do.
Yeah, like you think they're tearing him to shreds, but then he comes up later. Remember?
Oh God.
So they get Chris Hardwick. It looks like they killed him. The girl,
she gets away somehow.
She starts walking down this like pit hallway that has bodies lining it, like corpses, like Tales from the Crypt, like not.
Oh yeah, and then we get to Bone Chapel.
We haven't gotten. So then she runs into 2 pit zombies and an old guy. They rip her bunny suit off.
Oh my god, I forgot about the old guy.
That has nothing to do with anything. It's just to like get her back into her schoolgirl uniform, I guess, because now she's in her schoolgirl the uniform that was under her bunny suit. She continues walking down this hall, and it's like a haunted house in that like the bodies are like falling on her and stuff. We open a door, and it is a bone chapel.
It's pretty great.
It's lit all in red, big chandelier made of bones.
Framed with bones, floor to ceiling.
So we're in this underground bone chapel. There's another door. She opens, and what do we see? These patients that have weird metal things on them and like neck brace stuff. You can tell they're brain dead or like they've been experimented on because they're eating cereal bed.
Yeah.
Hard cut. Reveal of Dr. Satan. Dr. Satan is real, but when they reveal, it's not some slow like whoa thing. It's flashing psychedelic lights going.
Yeah. It's overpowering.
Dr. Satan is this old guy with like robot arm things that are helping his frail body move. It's creepy.
Well, yeah, that's where the tone changes, I guess, because you go from like that rural torture porn kind of stuff. Although I don't think this classifies as torture porn.
No, it's not as violent as it seems.
It's weirdly true. It also doesn't like revel in the torture.
No,
the violence is more pretty like in and out.
Except for this, because as we see, Dr. Satan is working on Chris Hardwick's
he's like a
open brain.
Steampunk nightmare.
Yeah, it's steampunk. Everything's like
where did that come from?
Yeah. So now we're in complete supernatural territory. It's steampunk. Dr. Satan sees her. Weird robot alien with an axe comes out.
Yeah.
That we get POV shots of his goggles looking at her with like the splinter cell like noise. Implying that he has robotic features and is not just a mutant.
He's gone high tech. Yeah.
So we're completely off the rails now. The train has crashed and the axe guy is chasing her.
Just straight up chasing. That was very Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Like the video games, like you have, I think it's at least through the first 3, there's always some point where you're just getting chased by some enormous dude that you can't really kill.
Just down
so
a
you're
dark
just
hole.
like, let's get the fuck out of here. But anyway, that was, there's just the different things. And I don't think he was necessarily trying to do that there. I don't think he was trying to do a Resident Evil thing. I think that's just
just happenstance.
That's the thing that would scare you, you know?
Right. She gets chased down the thing, hits a dead end. Long story short, the guy, weird alien thing, axes like a support beam. He gets crushed.
Yeah.
There's just something that it's just shitty filmmaking, I think.
When she just...
Well, it just shows day. It just shows like trees outside, and then it like shows night, then it shows day again, then it cuts back to her in the same position. Like he's implying he's trying to imply the passage of time.
Oh, I didn't even...
But it's like the same shot. She's like laying in the rubble on a shot. It cuts to like a tree, like, and it's like time lapse. Then it cuts to her in the exact same position and shot. Where it's like, oh, she didn't move for a day.
She's really out. I mean, having a hand-built tunnel collapse on you really takes it out of you.
Yeah, you got to go to sleep for a little while at least. So she sleeps
for 14 to 18 hours.
We'll place it at that for reality's sake. She climbs up.
Oh, yeah, and for reality's sake, she does just swim up through the dirt and back into fresh air. And
with a homage to Night of the Living Dead, a hand. Well, no, Or is it Evil Dead? Where the hand comes out.
I guess that's Evil Dead, yeah.
She homage to Evil Dead. Yeah, because in the beginning he does the Evil Dead. Like
He does do one of those. He gets his Sam Raimi in.
He has some Sam Raimi things. And homage to Evil Dead.
Just a touch.
I respect it. Respect the game.
Yeah.
He likes his references. And homage to Evil Dead. She punches through, which is not the ground. It's actually just hay over.
Yeah.
Like it's like obviously like some plywood and some hay, and she's like, like yeah, movie magic. She gets out, obviously bloodied, in her schoolgirl uniform. Is Texas Chainsaw Massacre just like ugh, not running and screaming? She's just totally.
She's still tired. She hasn't.
She's seen Dr. Satan.
She's seen a lot.
Yeah, it's
a lot to process.
I'd rather go through Texas Chainsaw Massacre. She starts walking down the road.
At least it's consistent.
Yeah, at least things happen. And who do we see in a bright red 59 Cadillac?
Captain Spaulding.
He's back. Picks her up.
Wearing another great t-shirt.
Oh yeah, he has great t-shirts all the time. What was the fart one?
If I wanted to listen to an asshole, I'd fart. Was that it?
That's it.
In the front was a hot dog, I think.
Yeah. Which Rob Zombie had him, and the cut's not great. So it's like zoomed in on that. If the words on the back, if I wanted to hear an asshole, I'd fart.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to just be him walking away from the camera so you see it, but he hesitates because off camera he goes, "All right, now I'll walk." Like he didn't cut it where he's just walking. He's like standing there for half a second, then starts walking. Like he had needed to edit that.
Just working some kinks out.
It's like in high school edit. Anyway, it's charming, I guess.
There's
lots of little mistakes like that are kind of charming. Gets in the car. She says, "Bring me to a hospital."
Captain Spaulding's like, "All right, let's do it. Let's get you. What the fuck happened?" You're like, okay, maybe Captain Spaulding just is fine killing random people. Maybe he's not a psycho.
Maybe he's just a weird clown guy.
He's just a weird clown guy who, stands his ground.
But alas, that is not the case, as Otis with a knife pops out from the back seat. Remember that?
I do. See, also, I thought that this part was more like a dream sequence. I didn't realize it was supposed to be real.
Oh yeah, because all right, then it hard cuts to her on Dr. Satan's table.
Yeah,
like it's all red, and then the movie ends. That's a good point. Yeah, that she just got captured by Dr. Satan, and she imagined.
That was my initial takeaway. My initial interpretation of this ending was that after, I guess she woke up or I guess when she escaped, I don't know, at some point she started dreaming, and then like she gets into the daylight dream and is just like pulling Captain Spaulding out of her memory because he's like the least non-threatening thing she's encountered recently.
Yeah, so he would be the saving grace.
Yeah, just like, I need something.
Oh, and I mean that would explain why he has like a comical Cadillac and like.
Yeah, I was like, that's weird, but all right. That kind of suits him. And then just like how bright it is, and just his whole demeanor is very helpful. He's
like out of character from what we saw before,
but also not necessarily out of character. It walks a line kind of where because I could have been like, okay, this could be a thing. Maybe again, he's down for shooting people in the head now and then, but is also gonna take a damsel in distress to the hospital when she needs it.
He does it when he needs to, if he's getting robbed or something.
Yeah,
not
he's
just
got
for
some
the sake
sort
of
of
the
moral
kill.
code. A man's gotta have a code.
Okay, I took it as literal because it's fucking Rob Zombie and it's stupid.
Which I can accept too.
I like yours better. And I think that would be something that Rob Zombie in retrospect would say like, oh yeah, that was totally it.
There's I mean, because obviously that's not unheard of, to just do a little pull the rug at the end of a horror movie and be like, this shit was a dream. Like, doesn't the very end of Nightmare on Elm Street, it's been a while since I've seen it.
It's been a long time.
But that there's Romero kind of does a version of it in Day of the Dead. But yeah, I mean, it's people do it. More acclaimed directors.
Yeah, and they actually pull it off where you're not like, you're not saying, was this stupid or good? You're like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. Honestly, it's over the top. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's just there to be what it is. The
more, because I had seen this on the wrap up. I saw this first when I was probably like 10 or 11. I remember it being, man, I must have been a little younger than that because it was scary. Like I didn't understand horror references or camp. I understood that Dr. Satan's fucking insane.
Yeah.
I understood that weird psychedelic things are like disjointed and weird. Like not in like an understand film way, but it threw me off balance as a kid. And I understood that Sherry Moon Zombie's assless jeans were really cool. I have to admit that was an awakening. Her and Catherine Zeta-Jones in Ocean's 12 were kind of a little...
Oh, I think I had a Catherine Zeta-Jones moment in one of the Zorros.
Oh,
I think that was
awesome.
My Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Why the fuck? She was like...
She's gorgeous.
She's awesome. Yeah. I remember talking to one of my friends and we were fucking trying to figure out like what was happening in our bodies.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
No. Because he was like, man, I really like Carmen Diaz. And I was like, hey, she's cool. And he's like, what about you, Corey? And I said, Catherine Zeta-Jones. And he's like, what?
No, Catherine Zeta-Jones is incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Dude, Ocean's 12, when like the flamenco guitar's playing, and she meets the fucking jackal or whatever, that ends up being her dad.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, no, the jackal was the other guy. Anyway, would you recommend, speaking of Catherine Zeta-Jones, House of a Thousand Corpses to anybody?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's one of those movies where I get why people shit on it.
Yeah.
I get why it's easy to be critical of it, but it's also kind of a weirdly good, like, friend-making movie. It's one of those where it's a movie that you see and you're just like, this was fucking nuts and I had a good time. And then, like, you find that coworker where you, like, make, for some fucking reason, you make a casual reference to House of a Thousand Corpses and he's like,
yeah,
oh,
you're in
dude,
the know.
remember Fish Boy? And you're like, yeah.
I do.
And then you have a friend because of Rob Zombie's vision.
It's one of those movies that it's like, and it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Like after we watched it, and because we're sitting on the couch and like, what do you think? And it was like, man, it was disjointed and it was cool and all this stuff. But then we just went out and just started just talking about it, and we were like, that part was awesome, and like, oh yeah, that part was really cool.
Yeah, it's like it's fun to watch with people, and then it's fun to just afterwards be like, talk about how crazy it was, and just the bonding moments you get from Rob Zombie.
You do. All right, I would go ahead and put this. It's considered a cult classic. I would say it is now.
I think it's probably gotten to that point, yeah.
I say we give it... Are we going to give it the Corey and Greg for Society check of approval?
Oh, yeah.
We need a rating system for when we do these things.
Okay.
Like a...
For now, I wholeheartedly approve of House of a Thousand Corpses.
I do as well.
I say good for society.
Good for society. Yeah, that's our rating system. We're figuring out, are these things good or bad for society? That's the wrap up. I think House of a Thousand Corpses is good for society, and I'll go ahead and say Rob Zombie and his music overall good for society.
Good for society.
All right. On that note, we'll wrap it up. I think the next one, maybe do a movie, maybe do a food thing. We have Roadhouse that we watched that we want to talk about.
I think I need to talk about Roadhouse, to be honest. The more I think about the little things and just the accidental implications of certain things. Yeah. I think I got to get it out of my system, to be honest.
The monster truck. The fucking monster truck.
Bigfoot. Yeah, it's... the straightest. It's the most it's so confused. It's confused about
It's sexuality.
all of its sexuality. It doesn't know what it wants, or it does know what it wants. It just can't admit it.
That pretty much sums it up. All right. So until next time, we'll do Roadhouse next. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Yeah, we dig through the ditches and we burn through the witches, and I slam in the back of my Dracula. Dig through the ditches and we burn through the witches, and I slam in the back of my Dracula.